Ever had an interview that went so wrong, you'd rather forget it? I did, and it almost cost me my career. Did you know that 60% of job seekers fail their interviews because of a simple mistake they didn't even realize they were making? Or that 58% of hiring managers make up their mind within the first 10 minutes of the interview? That's right, before you even get to the best part of your answer. In this video, I'm going to share the shocking details of how I completely bombed my interview, what went wrong, and how I turned my biggest failure into the best career move I ever made. Trust me, you won't believe what happened next. Stick around, because I'm also sharing the unexpected strategies that helped me turn it all around, and how you can use them to ace your next interview. Ready for the full story? Let's dive in. Chapter 1, The Disaster Strikes. My interview went horribly wrong. Interviews are supposed to be opportunities to shine, right? Well, let me tell you, my interview was a disaster from the start. I had practiced my answers, read every article about interview success, and even had a nice suit picked out. I was ready. Or so I thought. As soon as I walked into the office, things started going sideways. The interviewer barely made eye contact and barely smiled. It felt like I was being judged the second I sat down. This uneasy feeling only grew when he asked me the first question: what makes you the perfect fit for this role? I was supposed to respond confidently, but my mind went blank. This wasn't what I expected. I stumbled through an answer that was half-baked and sounded unsure. And that's when I realized, the interview was no longer about selling myself, it was about trying not to fail. According to a study by the National Association of Colleges and Employers, 85% of interviewers make their decision about a candidate within the first 10 minutes. That meant I had just lost my chance to impress. But that's not all. I also made another rookie mistake: I didn't ask questions. When the interviewer asked me if I had any questions, I froze again. A weak, "No, I think I'm good," escaped my lips. Guess what? The person across the desk immediately lost interest. In interviews, asking questions isn't just an option, it's a necessity. It shows you're engaged and interested. According to career expert Linda Ray, a good question can show you're serious about the role and have thought about it critically. Chapter 2, My Biggest Mistake: Why Preparation Wasn't Enough. I thought I was prepared for everything. I studied the company's history, its mission, and even the team members on LinkedIn. But there was one thing I overlooked: mental and emotional preparation. No amount of research can help if you're not mentally prepared to handle the stress of the situation. Studies have shown that stress can affect cognitive function, reducing your ability to think clearly or make sound decisions. So, what went wrong? It turns out, I focused so much on preparing my answers that I didn't prepare myself to stay calm under pressure. According to a Harvard Business Review article, 80% of candidates feel nervous during interviews, but the key is learning how to manage that stress. If you can't handle nerves, your answers won't come across as authentic. And authenticity is everything. When you're authentic, you're not just answering questions, you're making a connection. In hindsight, I wish I had practiced mindfulness techniques before the interview. Research shows that mindfulness exercises can reduce anxiety by calming the body's stress response. In simple terms, taking deep breaths, visualizing success, or even practicing a few meditation techniques could have helped me center myself. Emotional preparation is just as important as preparing your answers. So, in the future, I knew I had to be prepared not only with knowledge but with the ability to keep my composure. Chapter 3, The Curveball. A question that caught me off guard. If you think you can predict every question in an interview, think again. I was blindsided when the interviewer asked me a question I hadn't even considered. If we offered you the job today, how would you ensure your success in the first 90 days? At that moment, I froze. I didn't have a prepared answer. I hadn't thought about my onboarding strategy. I was too focused on answering the basic "why do you want this job?" questions. This was a huge wake-up call for me. It made me realize that interviews aren't just about knowing your resume or reciting the company's mission. They're about demonstrating how you can hit the ground running. Data from a Gallup study shows that 50% of new hires fail in their first 18 months, often due to a lack of proper onboarding. So, when an interviewer asks about your 90-day plan, they're looking for someone who's proactive, someone who can contribute right away. The trick is to think beyond the typical interview questions and be ready for curveballs. You can't always predict what will be asked, but you can prepare by asking yourself key questions before the interview. How would I fit into this company immediately? What value can I bring within the first few months? The goal isn't just to impress with knowledge but to show that you understand the bigger picture of your role. In my case, I didn't have a solid plan, and it cost me. But the lesson here is clear: never underestimate the power of strategic thinking. If you can articulate how you would contribute in the first 90 days, you'll demonstrate that you're not only ready for the job, you're ready to excel. Don't forget to subscribe for more tips on how to nail your next interview and turn career setbacks into comebacks. Chapter 4, The Silence. When my confidence crumbled. We've all been there, those moments when we start to lose our composure and the silence feels deafening. That happened to me during my interview, and it was a wake-up call. I remember sitting there, trying to answer the next question, but nothing seemed to come out right. Every word I spoke felt wrong, and I could sense the interviewer's impatience. According to a study by the University of California, nearly 70% of interviewees report feeling nervous during interviews, but the most successful candidates know how to overcome it. When your confidence slips, it shows. A lack of confidence can make you appear unprepared, which is exactly how I felt. But here's the truth: confidence isn't about being perfect, it's about being authentic and composed. That's something I didn't understand back then. A survey by the National Interviewing Survey found that 58% of interviewers believe the most important factor in hiring decisions is how a candidate presents themselves under pressure. I learned quickly that being composed doesn't mean pretending you have it all together. It means embracing your vulnerability and showing that you're human. That's exactly what I should have done instead of pretending I had the perfect answer. People connect better with others who are real and approachable. As Brené Brown, a researcher on vulnerability, says, vulnerability is not winning or losing, it's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. In retrospect, I should have slowed down. When you get nervous, your body reacts by speeding up your heart rate and making you rush your words. But if I had just taken a moment to breathe, I could have regained control. In interviews, taking a pause to think before answering is completely okay. A study from the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, found that candidates who take a brief pause to think before speaking appear more thoughtful and confident. Chapter 5, Turning It Around. The unexpected lesson I learned. At one point, I thought my chances were over. The interview felt like a disaster, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had completely failed. But then, something surprising happened. The interviewer, instead of ending the conversation abruptly, asked a follow-up question: "What do you think you could have done better?" That question changed everything for me. It was a moment of redemption. I took a deep breath and answered honestly. I admitted that I could have prepared better, stayed calmer, and asked more questions. I also shared my determination to learn from this experience. It turns out, owning up to mistakes can be more powerful than pretending to be perfect. According to career expert Jeff Hayden, the best leaders are the ones who admit their mistakes, because they demonstrate that growth comes from learning, not perfection. This was my turning point. The lesson was clear: career success isn't about avoiding mistakes, it's about how you handle them. The ability to reflect on your actions and learn from them shows a level of self-awareness that employers highly value. In fact, a study by Gallup found that 71% of managers believe self-awareness is a critical trait for success in the workplace. It's not about getting everything right, it's about showing resilience and a willingness to grow. From that moment on, I realized that failure doesn't define you, how you bounce back does. It's a strategy I now apply in all aspects of my career. If I encounter a setback, I don't dwell on it. Instead, I focus on what I can learn from it and how to improve next time. Every challenge is an opportunity to get better. The key is staying open to growth and never letting failure stop you from moving forward. Chapter 6, The Comeback. How I rebounded and landed my dream job. After my disastrous interview, I wasn't sure I would ever get a second chance. But I decided not to give up. I reflected on everything that went wrong and created a new plan. I worked on building my emotional resilience, practicing mindfulness, and focusing on my mental preparation for future interviews. I knew I could do better. Within weeks, another job opportunity came up. This time, I was ready. I used everything I had learned from my previous experience. I approached the interview with a clear plan: stay calm, think before answering, and, most importantly, stay authentic. I even prepared a 90-day success plan, something I had neglected the first time. This strategy was a game changer. I didn't just prepare for the questions I expected. I thought about the ones I could never predict. The more I anticipated unexpected questions, the more confident I felt. When the interviewer asked me about my approach in the first few months, I didn't panic. I presented a well thought out strategy that showed I understood the company's goals and how I could contribute from day one. It paid off. A few days later, I received the job offer. I couldn't believe it. I had turned my failure into a success story. The truth is, career advancement isn't about being perfect, it's about learning from mistakes, staying resilient, and knowing how to turn setbacks into comebacks. Research shows that 90% of people who experience a career setback eventually recover and land better opportunities. In the end, I didn't just land any job. I landed a position that aligned with my values, my goals, and my passions. This experience taught me that career advancement doesn't always follow a linear path. Sometimes, the setbacks are exactly what you need to learn and grow. Every failure is a stepping stone to greater success. And now, when I face an obstacle, I remind myself that it's not the end, it's just the beginning of a new chapter. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insights on turning setbacks into career wins.